Hello,
Howdy.
hello.
How you doing? Still good?
Doing aw-
Still
doing
chilly?
awesome.
Good.
I'm getting
Hi.
warm. I've
Hi.
got my heating pad sitting on my lap because it's so chilly out today, so I'm good.
Gosh. Eric, how you doing? Still okay? Since the
He
last
says,
five
I'm right here,
minutes?
Mama.
All
He
right.
says, I'm right here, Mama.
I want to ask about if you, Eric, could give me just this will be brief, just a few tips on how people can achieve mindfulness. That's so important. First, you might want to explain to people what mindfulness is.
He says, it is. He says, it's really important. Mindfulness is, it's not only, not limited to being connected to right here, right now, but being conscious of your thoughts, your decisions, and your actions simultaneously, like while it's happening.
Mm.
He says the importance of mindfulness keeps you not only connected to your higher self, but it keeps you in check with, he goes talking about checks and balances. It keeps you in check with yourself and also your environment simultaneously. So, kind of like if I make this decision, I'm facing this decision. If I make this decision, how does it affect me right now and the environment right now? So, um,
Including other people in the environment. Yeah.
right, right. Um, he says a lot of people get mixed up and think that mindfulness just means being in the now moment and collecting your thoughts here. That's part of it, but also being aware. It's the awareness of that as well. Um, he says when you're truly mindful and in that vibration, you he's like snapping his fingers and he's like, that's the fun shit. That's when it gets real fun, because if you're really mindful and in that moment, you can manifest it.
Mm,
It works so much better. He
I
says,
see.
because he says, think about it. If you really are here and now and thinking about the power of that, connected to it, um, you can manifest, because the highest concentration of your energy is here, of your consciousness is here, collective. If you're in the past, if you're in the future, if you're worried about this, that, and the other, you're all over the place. So it's much harder to manifest anything you want. So bringing yourself into that mindfulness is, he's just said boot, scoot, and boogie. He said that's when it's real fun. You can
Okay.
manifest. Um, it's easier to manifest what you want.
Now, in terms of, well, and also I would think that if you've had a painful past, it will help you heal from the painful past because you're no longer attached to the past or apprehensive
He
about the
says,
future for that matter.
He says, that's true. And when you think about your painful past and you think about it and you think about it, if you're truly mindful, you are aware that bringing that shit from the past into the now is affecting your now. It's determining the experience of your now, he says. Um, so he's communicating real funky today. I like it because
Really?
it's easy to understand, but it's like it's image and vibration at the same time. But he says, same thing about having anxieties and apprehensions about the future. Um, he says if you freak the fuck out all the time about what's about to happen or what might happen, what could happen, you're going to miss what is happening. We do it all the time, and what a shame, he says. So that again is how it affects your ability to be conscious and aware in the moment that you're in. So
Okay.
being mindful, being connected to right now and how that affects your environment right now, people around you, your experiences. He says, he snapped his fingers and he goes, collect yourselves. And he's talking
Uh,
about just into here to be mindful in this
okay.
moment.
All right. Now, how will mindfulness help those who grieve the quote unquote loss of a loved one? We know they're not really lost, but how will mindfulness help us heal?
Uh, that sounds so insensitive. But he says, By knowing that regurgitating the pain, regurgitating the past, um, isn't going to, first of all, it's not going to help you. Second of all, it is separating you from right now. Because again, if you keep going to the past and regurgitating the pain that you've gone through, which is hard because that's part of our makeup,
Mm.
he says, as humans. But the more we do it, and that's where the mindfulness comes in, we are choosing to do it. The more we choose to do it, the more pain and suffering we endure. He says, bring in mindfulness, and what that looks like and feels like, he says, is saying, okay, I understand. I lost my brother. This is what happened. I have to accept it for how it is. And this is my now. This is my normal. This is my life now. Because when we go back and we regurgitate and we think, he says, oftentimes what we do is we stay attached to how things were. And that's how we can't be mindful because they're not like that anymore. It's changed. So staying attached to or connected to those attachments, rather, is what pulls us away from our own ability to be mindful. Um, he's going like this with his head. He's like, "Is that a mind bender for you? Did you get it?"
Sort of, but
So,
so for example, a grieving person might stay in the past by thinking, "Oh gosh, he was so unhappy while he was there," and "Oh, when I found him, after taking an overdose, it was just so horrible." Those are things that you drag into your now that would be harmful, of course. And then, as far as the future is concerned, well, how will I live without him? You know, the things that
he
thoughts
says,
like that would.
um, he says, one thing I want to make clear is I'm not asking you to not process the emotions because
Mm,
that's vital. But what I'm asking you is to identify your attachments. Um, because even if we look at the future and think, how am I going to live without them? Um, he says, I know I'm asking a lot because in the human experience, it's much different than the way I see it now. But you have to acknowledge the attachment. Well, that person was my uncle, and now my uncle's not here. So you had an attachment to the role they played
hmm
in your life, the void that they filled. So now it's identifying that attachment, and also it's all about change, Mom. He says you have to accept the change and allow it. It's hard, and it's a new normal, so it feels foreign, and getting used to that is hard.
mm.
But the more you push it away, resist what is new and what is different, the more you push yourself away from mindfulness and stay stuck in um, past experiences, even separate yourself from now by um, having anxieties about what's ahead of you.
Okay. Well, can you give us some tips on how to achieve mindfulness? I'm sure it involves a lot of discipline and practice.
He goes, really, it does. He says the best way to think about it and envision it and even try to experience it is like um, being in the observer seat. He says, take the seat of the observer and observe yourself in every moment. Observe what you're doing, how you're doing it, how it's affecting others, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Because if you at least keep that little thought in the forefront all the time of observing rather than just reacting and doing, you will be much more mindful of every moment. Um,
It's so
he
hard.
says,
I'm the least mindful person in the world. I would sit there and be observing my inner landscape and outer landscape, and all of a sudden, did I change the cat litter? And what have I cooked for dinner today that they won't complain about? Or so it's a little hard.
yeah,
But go ahead. I
yeah.
interrupted.
Well, he's just talking about like he gets up into the camera and he says, "Guilty. You have to take responsibility." And he's just talking to people in general. You have to take responsibility, knowing sometimes you deliberately don't want to be mindful for whatever reason. So you have to take responsibility there, but you have to also have to take responsibility in knowing that It's not something that's just going to happen. It doesn't just appear like a fluff out of midair, he says. But you have to take responsibility and know that it takes action and it takes, he says, what's with all these D's? Diligence, determination, and discipline.
Okay. Triple D's. Well, why would a
That's
person?
exactly that's
Oh,
exactly what he said. Triple D's.
is he talking about bra sizes?
Uh-huh.
I figured.
Oh
All
my
right. So,
goodness.
why would a person not want to be mindful? You said that sometimes they just have to be responsible for the fact that they don't want to be mindful. Why would they not?
He says it's a false sense of freedom. He says people choose that. It's almost, he says it almost looks like and feels like being carefree, but it's that's false. That's not true. So if it's because like they're trying to escape their own reality. So he says trying to separate from what they're experiencing right now, and this is oftentimes where you see addicts be born. Addicts want to escape their own reality and don't want that mindfulness and awareness. So and then he says sometimes too people just lack that discipline, that self-discipline. Um, but people want to, yeah, yeah. People want to escape that the reality for whatever reason, he says, and um, throw caution to the wind, he says, and just not give a shit and be carefree. But it's really actually a false sense of freedom because they're running from something. Um,
It seems so much easier for me to just let my thoughts go wherever they want, though, instead of focusing them on the present moment.
he says that's fine. Let your thoughts go wherever you want, but be the observer.
Oh, observe my thoughts going everywhere. Okay,
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah. He says just be the observer. It's interesting because I'm that way too. I like to let my thoughts just run away and see where they go. But he says by being the observer, you can also potentially see the outcome of your thoughts or like the creation from your thoughts. Um,
Okay.
he says there's a whole lot that goes into this. He goes, we're about to play. I don't
Well,
know why.
to wrap it up, any other tips to help us achieve mindfulness?
He says I just want to say, he says I just want to remind people all you really have is right now, this moment. So cherish it, this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment. So kind of talking about, that's all you really have. He says, I just want to remind people to be in this moment, make a conscious choice, feel it, because I promise. And he's actually going like this, like playing a game or being on your phone too much.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I promise you will miss it if you don't take those opportunities to be mindful and really soak up each moment you're in. He says, I promise you, you will re-experience it in a way where you think, oh, I should have.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Any other suggestions before we close?
he says, just to listen to yourself. He's blowing kisses. He says, I love you guys. He says, just listen to yourself.
Okay.
Listen to what you're hearing.
All right. You guys stay tuned for the messages at the end. And Kimberly, as always, I want to thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Love you, Erik.
Love you. He says, I love you, Mama. He's going, love you. Blowing kisses to all you guys watching.
Bye.
He says, take it easy.